Oversatisfying your industry demand early and often can lead to struggle for office demand later. No one will have a reason to go to school or learn to work in an office, as they will be happy with their industry job. It is marginally more optimized to have one big specialty industry area rather than two or more covering the same land. This can be seen with this info bubble as you're creating the industry area. Space for roads can also factor into this, and so it's up to you if your priority is the perfect min-max usage of your space or more the way it looks. You can put roundabouts on elevated intersections. Yes, this includes over water. At least at the time of recording, you can crank parking prices with seemingly no downside, both in the district policies and the car park themselves. It seems like at least enough citizens will drive as long as they have anywhere to park, regardless of the price. Did you turn off the visual day-night cycle immediately when you got City Skylines 2? You should at least check out the Aurora Borealis sometime. It makes a beautiful backdrop for screenshots. While you're at it, check out an eclipse on Tatooine too. What I'm showing here isn't necessarily intended behavior with having two suns, but the eclipses are a fun reason to let nighttime play out every now and then. When looking at info views, remember some have road colors showing one thing and ground color showing another. For example, the roads info view has this red to green indicator at the top of it that is related to parking availability. So you might think that's what the green on the roads is. No, that green is the road condition shown at the bottom of the info view. The way I make sure I'm not misinterpreting is by clicking these toggle boxes in the info view all to off, then going through them one at a time to process the information more slowly. Exporting power is a go-to money-making tip that you can get started with as soon as you start building and expand as your city grows. The income you earn from exporting power is worth the additional upfront cost to place the building and operate it. Don't forget, the 400 megawatt cap you may think for exporting hydro is actually the bottleneck of the hydro line itself. Connect more of the high voltage lines to the map edge to exceed the 400 megawatt cap you may be experiencing. Remember, max capacities for power in general, maximum capacity of a hydro line or transformer station can be the reason for bottlenecking or this oddity in your power info view, making too much power but also importing. Zoom in on the power lines with the info view open, pay attention to the direction the power is going in a few spots, and see where you can spot where power doesn't reach. Then correct that by adding or moving power or transformer stations. You can, if you want to, completely ignore low-density residential demand. In fact, doing so in a way helps push medium and high-density move-in rates, as citizens that would normally move into your single-family homes will scooch into the smaller apartments instead. You can revisit the tutorial anytime up here at the top right of the screen, even if you're like me and completely skipped it the first time. Also, if you're like me, you may never have thought to turn your electricity and or water fees lower than their default 100%. This gives a bonus happiness to buildings that can be worth the trade-off in direct income in many cases. It can be significantly less expensive to make all your poop someone else's problem by exporting it. This is my water and sewage costs when I'm processing all my own sewage, and this is when I'm exporting every drop of poop these people excrete. I've tested this using different combinations of the sewage outlet and wastewater treatment plant. At least for now, export is the least expensive option once you can buy tiles to the edge of the map. Do you enjoy learning about how making your poop someone else's problem is good for your bank account? Give the video a like to support poop exporting everywhere. Medium and large roads have divided versions that react differently to tram tracks being added to them. The versions without dividers add the tram tracks to the outermost lanes, and trams and other vehicles share that lane. But when you add tram tracks to the divided roads, the tracks go in the center, reducing the available lanes to other vehicles by one in each direction. One-way tram tracks only affect the direction you place them in. You can also add the wide sidewalk, grass, or trees in the center of these divided roads along with the tram tracks, which works well to use them as larger avenues with only one civilian vehicle lane in each direction. Check out all the different ways you can stack transit tracks and pedestrian paths on top of roads. In the middle, on the sides, many combinations are possible. You can also run different transit tracks above each other. Don't hesitate to try this stuff out. Realism can wait for science. Minimum clearance over ship lanes can vary. I could swear when I tested this first, I was able to get highway over the narrow seaway at 40 meters, but right now I'm needing 41.25. Then you can see the medium seaway requiring 42.5 meters. The point is, many folks will go way up to 50 meters when they don't have to. Try turning down your elevation step and seeing how close to 40 meters you can hop over these two sea lanes with. Many of the regular networks can't span the wide seaway because of their pillars, but some of the special bridges can. You can make it work with the Grand Bridge and the Golden Gate Bridge, for example. Regular roads generally have a maximum height of 50 meters, but the bridges available in the different tabs can go beyond that. The Grand Bridge and the Golden Gate Bridge can go up to 100 meters, and the rest can go up to 200 meters. Of course, this maximum height can be completely subverted by building the elevated road first, then lowering the land beneath it. Tunnels, cut, regular, fill, and elevated networks happen at consistent heights. For vehicle networks, including transit options, a tunnel will start at minus 12.25 meters, cut starts at minus 5 meters, regular elevation happens above -5 until +5 meters where fill starts, then finally elevated or bridge starts at +8.75 meters. Pedestrian paths are different numbers but still predictable. Tunnels at -6.25 meters, cut at -2.5, regular from there to +2.5 meters where fill happens, and elevated or bridge at +5 meters above the ground. A wacky landscape has the potential to affect these numbers, but with a not too messy space, you can count on these for your project. It doesn't matter how far underground they are. Roads, transit tracks, and pedestrian paths will have the same cost if they're underground. So a 100-meter tunnel at 15 meters underground costs the same as a 100-meter tunnel at 50 meters underground. This is the same for the cut and fill functions. A cut road at -11.25 meters costs the same as a cut road at -5 meters. Same with fill at 5 and 6.25 meters. This is not the same for elevated roads or bridges though. They do cost more the higher their elevation. You can turn off radio ads on these stations labeled Urban City Radio, but it doesn't turn off city announcements on this station labeled Public Citizen Radio. If you do turn these ads off, it resets when you close to desktop. Bus stops, taxi stands, and tram stops all work on elevated roads. Metro and train require a building as their stop, so they don't have elevated versions at this time. You can combine this with the fact that pedestrian paths work to reach elevated networks to create some fun transit options. Pedestrians will use these paths to walk to elevated roads, despite the fact that this visual barrier still exists. If you've connected a seaway from your harbor to the edge of the map and are still getting a problem bubble saying pathfinding failed when you're trying to place your route, look at where the ship path meets the docking spot at the harbor. Sometimes when you connect the seaway, it moves the connection there to have a gap. Here's an extreme example. If the dotted line on the seaway doesn't touch the bubble that represents where the ship can dock, the pathfinding won't work. Place your seaway at a different angle or scooch it around to remove any gap there, and you should be good to go. Importing and exporting cargo via air is done solely as an upgrade to the airport. There is no upgrade for the international airport and no separate cargo airport. There are plenty of little tips to help with high rent. Smaller lot sizes, watching the land value doesn't get too high, not overplacing services, adjusting taxes. But I think one that gets overlooked is making sure your citizens have work. If you're seeing a lot of high rent complaints in the same area, click through some of the households. Sometimes you'll have children living with retired seniors or students living alone, so there's not much you can do. Other times, though, you'll notice they are just unemployed. Take note of their education levels and zone applicable jobs for them. Travel time to work and leisure also affects a rent. Living somewhere that has very short commute times to work, leisure, or shopping is very desirable, therefore rent goes up. If you want an easy way to see how far a citizen has to travel for work, zoom out a bit and use the pinpoint tool at home and then at their work. Check out the default names of some of the companies for a bit of a laugh. When upgrading stretches of road, you don't have to slide your mouse along the whole road. You can start at the first segment and move your mouse directly to the last segment. This is the same for bulldozing large stretches of road. However, that makes mistakes like this easy at highways and interchanges, so be careful. Some building upgrades can be placed more than once. Some buildings that have upgrades available may surprise you. It's worth checking them all. Don't know why you are or are not getting demand for certain zoning types? Don't forget, this button exists beside the demand bars. While we're looking at it, let me translate some of the info here into simple terms. If the words are in green with a plus sign, that factor is adding to the demand. If they're red with a minus sign, it's taking away from or preventing the demand. Unoccupied buildings can be thought of as you already have zoning for that type down, and if a citizen or business decides they want to move in, they will move into what is already zoned rather than adding to the amount on the demand meter. Happiness references that you have areas with plenty of facilities to increase a citizen's happiness. Taxes is how high or how low your taxes are. Low is more demand, high is less. Students will show on medium and high density residential and references how many students you have in your city that may need a smaller place to live. Availability of jobs relates to people's ability to find a job that matches their education level if they move in. High skill or just labor availability relates to businesses' ability to hire employees that match the education required for the job if they move in. Local demand means how much your citizens want to buy products and materials. Gas station availability speaks to if the city needs more gas stations. Hotel demand means your city is attractive to tourists and they want somewhere to stay during their visit. Local availability of materials means the ability of the business to purchase materials it uses locally to lower its operating cost. Warehouse availability references warehouses being available to store the goods the business would use in their operations. This cool screen exists too, graphs. So far, I've mostly perused it for fun. You can expand these dropdowns on the left, ticking specific boxes and getting pretty in-depth insight to the life of your city. If you're like me, you'll find this screen first by pressing V on the keyboard when you meant to open your bulldozer with B. Gang, autosave is not on by default. If you want autosave, turn it on manually in the options. If you choose a high number of autosaves to keep, make sure you're maintaining your saves folder. I have 80 saves in mine right now, and it takes up just about 6 gigs of storage. I like to move older save states to an HDD for safekeeping. If you want to send a save to a friend without PDX mods, you have to grab 2 files from your saves folder. The folder is found in the file path shown on screen, and you send both the .cok and the .cok.cid. Screenshots taken with the in-game photo mode are saved in a folder that's very close to the saves, shown on screen now. However, screenshots from Steam's native screenshot function with the default keybind F12 are saved at the path shown on screen now. I usually navigate there from within Steam if I need to. An easy way to get rid of problem notifications? The tilde key is your friend. Trees affected by pollution lose all their resource availability. Grid mode for roads has a maximum size of 2.3 kilometers on the first direction you click and 1.2 kilometers on the second direction. But you can still use grid mode to add on to existing roads if done carefully and perfect or near perfect perpendicular angles. You can build some of the highway interchanges the game provides directly over existing highway. Of course, this works best when the existing highway is straight. Trying to get your paths to connect to the Fountain Plaza and there being little bits, you can do it with snapping on, but it's a pain, so just turn off snapping. Start the path away from the fountain and move towards it. You have to move beyond the first point where it tells you overlapping items. Each milestone unlocks more development and map points than the previous. You can use this knowledge to plan for future, larger projects. A roundabout adjusts how many lanes it has based on the number of lanes going into and out of it. You can make some pretty neat roundabouts happen by tinkering with single lane through to 7-lane roads. Unlike the first city Skylines, planting trees doesn't remove the farmland resource. Can't tell which way the water is flowing because the arrows just look like triangles? That means it's pretty much still water. There is a direction to it if you measure the sides of the arrow, but not enough flow to be useful. Even though you can't move zoned buildings like you can plopped buildings, you can move roads. It leaves the driveway connected and usually leaves a good spot to put trees trees. The medium parking lot doesn't have fences, so you can place 2 of them side by side and they look like one. People will also use its side entrance as an access point if it's close enough to a road. If you are planning your road layout and don't want to interfere with natural resources, have the road menu open, then click into the Natural Resources info view and draw roads around the outside of the resource you want to save. You can remove them later. Vehicles offer the biggest fluctuation in income for commercial taxing. So far, I've been able to tax them at max and people still buy them, offering some easy cheese money. Natural disasters don't start happening until the Grand Village milestone unlocks, even if you have them turned on from the beginning. Use this knowledge and have a plan in place before that milestone hits, even if your plan is just to watch the pretty tornado go by and wonder if it lands in Kansas. The Disaster Relief tab provides services that help you prepare for disaster, but the only building that offers assistance after disaster has struck is the Disaster Response Unit, which is an upgrade to the fire station. If you accidentally landscape over a pond or lake, just lower the land again, and the water will be there, even after a long while. This water does not show up as groundwater deposits. It's okay not to go for high-density downtown metropolis cities every time. You can take a step back, relax, and build little farming villages if that's what you want to do. Cut roads and the slope landscaping tool go hand in hand as the cut wall follows the slope of the terrain behind it. To do a simple slope like this, use the level terrain tool first. Right-click your desired top height first, then left-click and create a flat area at the top of the slope. Then do the same at the bottom of the slope, flattening out an area at the bottom height, usually the height of the flat road leading to the cut road. Then use the slope terrain tool. Right-click once at your desired highest point in the slope with a brush size around 40, then start at the lowest point of the slope. In just a bit from where the cut road starts, hold down left-click and drag your mouse up to the highest point. You should have something like this. Remember, signature buildings, they're free to place down and have a benefit attached to them. They also have North American and European themes for residential, commercial, and mixed use. Don't lose them. It may be worth looking at what's required to unlock signature buildings and work towards 1 or 2 if you're close to getting them available, as their bonuses can be quite useful. The row housing looks especially wonderful when zoned going up a slope like this. Keep it in mind for those tricky spots where you need to change elevation but want to fill the area in with something. Even though it's labeled visuals, toggling the day-night cycle affects solar panels. If you have the day-night cycle off, your solar panels work better more often. I'd hazard a guess that this is a bug. On a non-bug note, solar panels are also affected correctly by things like weather and how short your days are. So on a map like Tampere, you'll have very short days in winter and so less effective solar. Adding lights to highways makes them safer to travel and also carry electricity. Don't forget about policies. Some of them have very little or no downside.
If you only have low and level land to work with, you can maximize wind turbine efficiency with terraforming and what's called the Venturi effect. The basic idea of the Venturi effect is that fluid, such as wind, speeds up when it is funneled into a smaller area. To create this in cities, find a flat open area and turn on the wind velocity overlay. Create a funnel opposing the wind direction so the wind will flow into it, then create a straight tunnel away from the mouth of the funnel. As the air enters the funnel and is constricted into the channel, its velocity increases due to the pressure difference at the mouth and tail of the tunnel. You can verify that your structure works by looking at the wind velocity overlay again. If the wind progressively becomes a darker orange the further it travels, you're in business. You can then place wind turbines down the length of the tunnel and enjoy maximum power output. Here you can see a comparison between wind turbines out in the open and those placed within the tunnel.
Find yourself always wanting to build and having a difficult time slowing down to take in the sights? Once you've got a small established community, name one or a few of the citizens after you and your family or friends and follow them on Chirper. Then, literally, just follow one of them for 15 minutes and see what they get up to. It gives you and your city time to breathe while immersing into the game. Full bus shelters can't be placed on thin roads like the alley or gravel road, but you can place the small version of the transit stops on them. If you want your bus loading lane to be shorter, double-click with the draw tool where you want the bus stop's loading lane to start or stop. Doing it this way is a little finicky, so for more precision, you can also draw roads to the point you'd like the lane to start and end at, upgrade the roads beyond those points with grass, delete the extra roads, then remove the grass. For either method, if you make further adjustments after this, it may revert back as you're basically adjusting where the node is, and adding or removing nodes nearby can rejig it. Deleting every bus depot and even station in your city does not remove the bus lines or bus stops, and your citizens will still wait at these unattended stops. This applies to all types of transit. Don't forget to bulldoze your transit stops and delete the lines if you no longer want them in your city. The number of vehicles a transit line will want to spawn is based on the physical length of the line rather than the number of stops on the line. See this example where I have 2 lines of the exact same length, one with many more stops than the other, and the default number of vehicles is the same on both of them. As you can only reduce the number of vehicles down to a certain point on each line, you can use this information to your advantage and consider creating shorter lines where it may be helpful. You can have roads that have the fill option on both sides at any height, so they basically act as a wall. Landscape your land up to about the height you want, then raise your road to 5 meters above that ground, draw your fill road where you want it, then landscape the land back down below it. This works with tall slopes too. To see what kind of zone a building is, click on it and look here. These icons are different for the different zones, densities, and themes. You may just have to squint a little. The color of the zoning tiles is different for each of these too. If you look while the game is paused, you can see the North American themed zoning has a darker outline. You can make an intersection look like this instead of this by turning off snapping, deleting each side of the intersection, and drawing the road back up to it just barely, one by one. Trying to get perfect perpendicular corners with your roads while you're building in an area that has a lot of conflicting guidelines, making your cursor snap all over the place? Turn off all snapping except snap to 90-degree angles and snap to zone grid. The snapping is still fairly loose if you're used to the first City Skylines game, but at least you don't have all the surrounding guidelines getting in your way. Trams can reverse in City Skylines too, but it's not as simple as placing down 2 tram stops like this and drawing the tram line between them. You have to take the tram track and draw a bit of it off the road after your last stop. This will be where your tram reverses. This can be the regular tram track or the one-way tram track, and it can be at the end of a road like this or coming out of a segment of road like this. Then watch where the tram track meets the road. Take a tram stop and place it at the end of your tram track nubbin. Placing that tram stop alters the grooves of where the tram can run, allowing it to reverse back out of that nubbin. If you used a 2-way tram track, you can place 1 tram stop on either side of the nubbin to remove the notification bubble. You do not have to have an actual passenger stop here on your tram line. Placing the sign is enough. Now you can have a tram reverse to make a line like this possible. If you want to go back and forth between 2 stops on a road like this, you just need to do the nubbin strat on both ends. The middle lane marker on the 2-lane, 2-way highway is dynamic. It adjusts to be fully solid, dashed to allow for passing, or passing only on one side, depending on if it curves or meets an interchange. It's worth saving your city in different seasons so you can reference what they look like and feel like at those times when you need to. Also, make a save when it's not raining. Upgrading roads or changing the direction of one-way streets with snapping off can easily lead to mishaps like this. Fix it with snapping off again, or prevent it from happening by remembering to keep snapping on when adjusting your one-ways or asymmetricals. You can rename your neighboring cities at their connections to the map. I think this road tool is underused. It functions to make 2 bends go well together and is great for situations like this where you have 2 roads going vaguely in the same direction that you want to connect. To use it, you have 4 clicks. First at your start point, second at the middle of the first bend, third at the middle of the second bend, and fourth at the final point. If a residential building is abandoned, you can hover over the unhappy logo up here to see hints to why. Note, this may not be worth acting on for just one house, but if you have many abandoned buildings and they are all complaining about one thing, chances are you'll want to correct it. It's easy to forget some bridges don't carry water and you have to connect them manually, especially because they still carry power. I remember best by it being all these bridges that don't show the pipes under the roads in their on-screen image, even though, you know, they do carry power. Don't forget, you can place or grow in shorter buildings under elevated roads, unlike in the first city skylines. An easy example you may want to use is parking under a highway. Avoid putting large buildings like the airport on a main road like this, otherwise traffic can get messy. Building a bit of a loop of a road is a beginner-friendly solution to help. Now, want to make that loop look neat with parking? Put the parking against the main road to get its measurement. Build the road behind it, then turn the parking around. You can also put an alley down and 2 underground parking lots on either side of it like this, then build the loop, reverse the lots, delete the alley, and put trees down the middle for another easy but prettier option. Use the double-click tip from my previous tips video to adjust pillars after you have landscaped around them. Just 10 more tips to go in this video, then you can get 33 more when you watch that one next. Cultivated bushes don't interfere with the tree radius. Remember this when you're decorating. If you're trying to have a symmetrical number of trees along a path or roadside, instead of drawing them left to right like this, start in the middle, then the outsides, then the middle of those, then the gaps of those, so on. It's easier for me, at least, to not leave a gap at one side this way. It may be for you as well. When you're placing the sewage outlet, it may give you a warning bubble of not on shoreline. This isn't a hard error that prevents you from placing it though. You can place that outlet really anywhere to create your own pooptastic shoreline. You can extend garbage landfills and specialized industries over networks that are tunnels. You can click, hold, and drag with the zoning tool, just like how you can with the bulldoze tool. You can connect your own paths to the underground subway station. It's easiest when your height is at minus 6.25 meters and the only snapping you have on is existing geometry. Start at this platform for the stairs and watch for the path to open the wall at them. Then draw a path away from it. If it hooks up to the road like this, you can just use that as the first segment, then draw another segment off of it so that it turns into a corner instead. Here, I have the paths connecting 2 metro stations as well as leading out to an above ground entrance over here. Seeing funky ridges like this around hills and valleys, they're underground electricity or water lines that have been placed haphazardly, and if you delete them, you can redraw the lines lower into the ground to avoid it happening. Using the smaller roundabouts where pedestrian roads meet creates a little plaza looking area, as does a regular 8-way pedestrian intersection. You may be close down to a road and see madness like this happening. A tram driving into a group of people, seemingly loading them and then disappearing. They all pop out again. This is, respectfully, the fault of the player, as the tram stop was placed too close to a node where pedestrians can cross the road. As the crowd at the stop grows larger, something else you can work to manage by having more transit and stops available, they overflow onto the road, preventing the tram from driving any further, and so it disappears into the ether. Move the tram stop back away from the node and you should see the problem stop. This is good for a bit of a laugh. Delete one of your higher density residential buildings and watch the mob expand. If you do it to a signature building, there's a good chance you can catch them all while they're homeless and taking a selfie with a space that used to be their home.